Hi guys, so I wanted to talk to you today about getting your kids started in gaming, specifically X-Wing, but it can really apply to any other gaming. So if you've got kids or if you've got nieces or nephews or young people in your family, maybe younger brothers and sisters, a lot of people ask me, what's a good age to get people started? The simplest answer is it varies from game to game. But I have found that anything below 5, you don't want them really touching your stuff very much unless without extreme supervision. 7 for me was the first age where I found that my oldest son could actually play X-Wing a little bit, but I kind of had to simplify the rules. And so, but I have as young as 5, I've found that they are kind of able to do it as long as you're not being very serious with them. And what I mean by serious, I'm not saying you need to like disregard the rules, but younger small hands can't really move pieces with precision as much, and so it takes more supervision, and you have to fly very casual because they're going to bump things. They're going to, I've seen, in my 5-year-old would sometimes move pieces without using the maneuver tool at all and just said, I want to go straight, and just put their hand on a piece and push it straight. Now, so this is not, if you're thinking of doing this, and if you've got 5-6-year-olds or whatever, you may not want to bring them into like a competitive scene. I have seen people as young as 9 going to tournaments, 9 and 10, and as far as like leagues or tournaments or sanctioned play, they're able to do all right. And that's probably I would probably say 10 is probably a good early time where you can take somebody to their first tournament. Although in general, that's usually better if it's a setting where they're familiar. If it's a smaller tournament or they're already familiar with a lot of the people, I wouldn't necessarily suggest taking them to a regional where competition might be hard and some people might be very competitive and not take it as casual. You generally want to play in a place where people are comfortable with children and also comfortable with, answering questions, or because they're not going to be familiar with every card and every rules interaction in the game. But that being said, 5, 6, 7 is a good age to start them out. So if you have children, you're thinking of starting them, this is a great time to do it. One of the things that I have done when I've started my kids playing X-Wing is I had them use a very simplified version of the rules. We're not using 100-point builds. I'd have them kind of use like the starter set, maybe 1 or 2 ships aside, so not just one X-Wing. But or sometimes I'll even let them pick whatever ship they want, because they do watch Star Wars with me. They're not super Star Wars fans as much as I'd love them to be, but they're very familiar, and they're also familiar with Star Wars Rebels. So one of the things that I've done is I'd say just go pick whatever ship you want to be, and then I try to pick something at least marginally equivalent for the other side. That being said, we also don't really do much in the way of actions. I pretty much just have them focus, and as far as modifying dice or whatever, focus is basically it. It teaches them a little bit. Now my younger one really doesn't understand all of that, but my set, well, he's now 8. But my oldest, when he was 7, he was starting to understand that he could focus and like kind of what that did and kind of how it applies to modifying dice. I didn't really get too much involved, too farther down the pipeline than that. I do believe he was totally capable of it, but it's not a game we were playing every weekend. Kids are so much smarter than you give them credit for. For example, my oldest is really big into Minecraft, and actually my middle 2, I have three boys, but my middle 2 are both really into Minecraft, for example, and they know so much about this game. They know how to do the circuitry with redstone, and they can do all kinds of advanced things in this game. And they've even learned some things that I didn't know, and I've played Minecraft pretty casually, but every once in a while. So they are, if they get really into something, they're going to blow you away with how much they're going to learn. But if you're doing it just like starting out or casual play like once in a while, then I would say just stick to the basics. Start off with just focus, and then maybe your 3rd or 4th game start doing more. All right, now we can target lock, or we can barrel roll or boost, and start working on all the new things like that. That being said, X-Wing's not the only game you can have kids play. I wouldn't really suggest Armada right away until they get a little older. Maybe double digits for something like that, because it is more strategic and might not be as rewarding to a young kid. But Imperial Assault, or when Legion comes out, Legion I think would probably be a good game for you to play casually with your kids, because for one, the minis aren't as delicate I think X-Wing minis are some of the more delicate minis that are out there, so you're very careful about like, oh, don't break off the wing of the TIE fighter, or don't bend the guns on the X-Wing, or how many of you have B-Wings that have had the guns bent off? So in general, Armada minis are a little tougher, except for the Victory. A lot of people break their stuff on the Victories, but Imperial Assault minis are pretty much just people, right? And so they're not as super delicate. I mean, I'm not saying you want to be rough with them, but I feel better about a 5-year-old handling a 28 millimeter miniature rather than a little spaceship with tiny guns. Granted, not all minis are exactly the same. Some of them are going to have more delicate pieces. I know the E-Web for Imperial Assault has like the little the cable that can break pretty easily. There's exceptions to every rule, but Imperial Assault is one that you can probably play with them. And also, you can house rule a lot of things, especially if the app ever comes out, or when the app comes out. Now you can play it cooperatively, and which is taking me to a segue as we get into other games, because cooperative gameplay is actually one of the best ways to play with kids, because as much as we don't, we want to train our kids to be good losers, or and not be sore losers, and think about the gameplay, it's inevitable kids are going to be upset if they lose. And so if you're playing a cooperative game, you can all win together, and high fives can go all around, and it's really important that kids have fun when they're gaming. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm gaming with my kids is we play cooperative games more often than not. Or if we're not doing cooperative, something that's just going to be, that really stresses the fun. Like we play Jenga a lot of times. Because like it's not really about who wins or loses, it's more about like the fun when the tower collapses. So sometimes you even want to lose. So Jenga is like a really fun one. But as far as more modern tabletop gaming, Zombicide is actually a really good one. I play a lot with my kids because it's fully cooperative. You all win or lose together. You got a lot of miniatures on the table. The kids love them. It looks cool. They get excited about it. And it's really, really easy to house rule things. So I took my Ninja Turtles one time. We took Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle minis, and I hid them in the different rooms. And I said, okay, each time we rescue a Ninja Turtle, they get to fight for us, and they'll help us beat the zombies. I mean, it was a really, really easy scenario. But you can easily build scenarios in that game. And so we got to do extra stuff. The kids love this game called Plants vs. Zombies. It's a smartphone game, and I also have it for like Xbox and things like that. And they had these little action figures, these little minis for Plants vs. Zombies. So they said, hey, Dad, and this was pretty cool. They go, how about Plants vs. Zombicide? And so I said, all right, let's do it. So we built another custom scenario, incorporated some of the characters from Plants vs. Zombicide, or Plants vs. Zombies, and we made a game called Plants vs. Zombicide, and it was similar when you had to rescue some of the plants, and then they would help you fight the zombies. And then sometimes if an abomination zombie would spawn, we'd put one of the zombies from Plants vs. Zombies on there. And so it made it a lot more fun. The kids love that game. They ask me to play it all the time. I don't get asked to play X-Wing as often, but when I do, and we make a big thing of it, they usually have a good time, at least in setup and picking what ships they want to be. One of the things younger kids do like to do, though, is if they get a hold of your minis, they just want to play with them. And so that's where you really have to be careful, because they might just smash them into each other, and so that like I was talking about, intense supervision. So if you can make sure you have full control, and if it's only one kid, you're fine. If you've got like 4 or more kids, stick to something that's got very durable pieces until they're old enough that you can trust them. But I think a lot of this is common sense. It's just, I'm sharing with you my experiences for it, and I actually would love to hear about your own. Dexterity games is another one that's extremely fun. I talked about Jenga before. Games that aren't really about strategy, but more about, the flick of the wrist, or how careful you can pull something out. Pitch Car is one that I really like, and the kids love, because they can take part in setting up this racetrack. And if you're not familiar with Pitch Car, basically this is the box for it right here, and it's just a game where you have these little wooden discs, and you build a racetrack that's also built of wood, and they slide across there pretty easily, and you have to flick your little discs across the across the racetrack, and you have to make it all the way around. You do however many laps you want to do, like 3 laps I think is the default. We usually just do 1, but because I have a couple of expansions for it, we build a really big racetrack, and it takes a little while to set up, it takes a little while to tear down, but there's borders you can put up on the side to keep, you can make it harder or difficult. If you put like no borders up, so it's really easy to go off the track, you can wipe out really easy. But the kids have a good time with that when you can put little jumps in there. They love building the tracks. They love playing on it. When we have people over, if we have like some of their friends that don't do a lot of board gaming and stuff, I love to pull out a game like this and have and it plays up to 8 too. So I've had like 6, 7, 8 kids all playing it before. Great game, gets them into tabletop gaming. And the thing is, as much as a geek as I am, my kids got into video games very earlier than I would have liked, but my kids love video games. However, making board gaming and tabletop gaming and family experiences like that really enjoyable for them, I can easily pry them off of the Xbox by saying, all right guys, let's do a tabletop game. And they love it because we make it so much fun, because I pick games that they can all be active participants in, that are fun to play, and that we use teamwork on. X-Wing can be like that, especially because you can play teams with X-Wing. And this is what I do when I take my kids out with me. I'm always on their team, and we play a team game. And of course, I talk to other people first. If I'm going to a store or where there's other people, I'm like, hey, do you mind if we just do kind of like a casual game here? I'm going to have him on my team. I'll try to make sure he's, and I'm usually playing with people that I know already that are cool. But that's one thing you might want to clear up. If you end up with a a new opponent or whatever, just make sure that they understand, hey, there's a kid here. You might bump some things or whatever. We'll try to make sure that that doesn't happen. But most people, and that's one good thing about these games. Most tabletop gamers in general, and I'd say the overwhelming majority of your Star Wars miniatures gamers are really cool folks, and they like to fly casual. So if you're thinking about getting into a game like this and you've got kids, it is a great game for the family. All of the Fantasy Flight Star Wars games are really good for the family, but X-Wing and Imperial Assault are probably the best for younger kids. Legion will probably be good for the whole family, although it'll probably end up being expensive to get all the way into it. So I think X-Wing's probably your best bet for starting out. Kids tend to love it. But it'll suck you in and it'll make you want to buy everything. But that's the way these type of games go. But yeah, that's about all I had. I wanted to talk about today. Some of the games that we play. Zombicide is probably at the top of the list though for the family games. They do like a lot of card games also. We got this one called Exploding Kittens. You may have seen it on Kickstarter, and it's also at retail. Not a very strategic game, but the kids like it because it's just silly. And and making sure your kids can laugh and have a good time, and you're bringing your family together, or you're just socializing and bringing the kids into your hobby. They love that. Last thing I want to talk about, hobbies. Your kids, if you've got children or if you've got young ones that look up to you, kids tend to want to emulate people that they respect or people that they look up to. And so if they see that you're having a good time with gaming and that you use the hobby in a great way, they're going to emulate that. And it's a great hobby to be into. It's very constructive. It teaches cooperation, socializing, or whatever. My oldest has been doing that with me, and one of the things is YouTube. So he started a YouTube channel, and we actually just took him to Legoland for his birthday. So I'm going to put a link to that. If you guys want to check it out, he would love it. He loves to see that that he got a new subscriber or something like that. So if you've got kids, he does a lot of stuff like Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator, and I help him out with it. But he wants to do YouTube stuff just like his dad, so I figured I'd help him out. It's all very family-friendly stuff out there. So if you've got young kids that are looking for a channel to look at, it's called Happy Kids Gaming. I'm going to link it right over here. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.